Interpretation. Will spoke from behind the Toronto Sun he had pulled up. Robert was on the other side of the paper, on the other side of the booth. You see, it's all a matter of interpretation. That's what the point of it is. Just interpretation. I mean, if I were to say that Moses was an economist, you might think I was crazy, completely mental. I don't think you're crazy, Robert said. Thanks, Robert. But what I meant is that it's just a question of interpretation. You could say that the Ten Commandments are the foundation for an economy, because an economy is an organized and just community. And the principle of organization is trust. It's trust. How can you trust an adulterer, a thief, a liar? Once those things are in place, you have the basis of a contract, a social contract. And contracts are the basis of an economy. Dorothy arrived at their booth. It was a Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock. He can't piss himself today, she said. He's not gonna piss himself, Will said. The usual, she asked. Yeah, Will said. He watched her walk away. If there were no contracts, there could be no modern world, no world whatsoever. It's the contract that acts as the binding agent. Faith is a contract, Robert said. Faith is a contract. Yes it is, Will said. Faith is a very important contract. People have to have faith in one another for the contracts to hold. When I say Moses was an economist, I mean that he was a nation builder. He could set his people in a place and in a spirit with the promise of milk and honey. They believed him. They really believed him. And that's the problem. What's the problem? Robert asked. There's nothing left to believe. Dorothy returned to fill their coffee cups. She left 4 creamers on the table, not too rudely. She wasn't mean. It was just that she had to clean up the mess that Robert always made. When she saw nothing, she turned and walked away. Will looked at Robert. There's no belief anymore. There's no great story. People watch TV now and they see a guy in a suit trying to sell them something. There's nothing to believe anymore. They just don't get it. What is a minister of oceans and fisheries going to do when the deputy minister tells him there's no more cod in the Atlantic? It's been overfished. And he's been told by the research directors, and they've been told by the guys in the rubber suits who dive under the water and do the tests. And then the Minister of Ocean and Fisheries, he tells the Prime Minister, and then he has to announce a moratorium on fishing. Then everyone wants to know why their elected officials can't make more fish. It's insane, Robert, insane. We were better off with kings. Kings, Robert. Equality is going to destroy us. But, like I said, it's all a matter of interpretation. If you can believe Moses was an economist. Will paused and sipped his coffee. He repoised himself and began again. Everything that grows has to die. It's the natural cycle. We talk of the economy growing, but the economy proper can never die. We speak about it in organic terms, growth in the economy, but we never speak about the inevitable consequences of growth, which is, of course, death. Fractional reserve banking has committed us to never-ending growth. Otherwise, the money caves in on itself. Massive devaluation. To grow, we acquire debt by borrowing from the banks. Our government does this for us. To pay the debt, they tax us. To continue the growth of the economy, which has to happen to keep the currency values, we have to produce more and more. And in producing more and more, we consume more and more. Dorothy reappeared with Robert's food and placed it on the table in front of him. Will had been fasting a long time, but for reasons he couldn't quite explain, he very much enjoyed buying Robert breakfast every morning, and Robert was very happy to get it. He started eating. Will spoke again from behind the paper. Every time the dollar goes up, exports go down. This government wants a low dollar. They don't have any vision. There's just so many holes, Robert. So many holes in the economy. It sure isn't Moses, no matter how you interpret it. Will looked out from behind his paper. Robert had finished his eggs and was humming to the wall. He ate incredibly fast. Economics is our fundamental communication, Will said. What language does a prophet speak, Robert? The language before words. How could there be a language before words? Words are just an interpretation. A tree is a tree. It's the thing itself. The word tree is artificial in our language, and it's artificial in every language. A tree is a tree. He stared at Robert, mouth agape. Every once in a while, Robert could do this. Just pull something out of the air that was absolutely mind-blowing. Dorothy returned to the table and handed him the bill. Will reached into his pocket. It was a conditioned reflex. Dorothy spoke a silent language. The bill meant she wanted them to leave. She had taken a business-only policy with Robert. She didn't like him staying too long after he finished eating. He scared away customers. Excuse me, Will said to Dorothy. I forgot my money. Do you mind if I go home to get it? You can't leave without paying. I just live across the street. You can't leave without paying, she said again. No faith, Robert said. It's policy. No credit, no personal checks. She was red in the face when she said this. I'll get it, said a voice from the next booth. Will turned around to see Cobb, who stood. He picked up the bill, handed it back to Dorothy with a $10 bill. She left immediately. I'm not a bum, Will said. I guess that's a matter of interpretation, Cobb said. She hates me, Robert said. Hates me. Cobb looked at Robert and Will. You guys good for smokes? I don't get my benefits check my benefits check until Friday. I'll trade you a carton for some pills, Cobb said. It's easy to sell medicine. Okay, Robert said, and handed Cobb a plastic prescription bottle. Cobb handed him a carton of smokes. You good, Will? Yeah, I still got a half carton. All right then, you owe me $10, Cobb said to Will. Then he leaned in close to Will's ear and said, People like us have to stick together. And with that statement, he departed. End of chapter.